Alright, I'm back. So, Sagittarius full moon, June 4th for most of the world, June 3rd if you're in the US, at least Central Time. I don't know about California. No one knows about the West Coast. Is it going to fall off? Is it going to stay? Is China taking it over? And who is China, really? Who are any of these countries, really? Who are our governments? Who are our leaders? Belief, information. We choose what to believe. But it isn't logical, it isn't conscious, it's through conditioning. And that's what this full moon can be about for you. But we all need language for understanding, and different things speak to different people. So let's see if we can put something together through the language of astrology for a moment. Now this full moon is at 13 degrees, 17 minutes of Sagittarius. It is conjunct, astronomically speaking, a place in the heavens, that huge LCD, OLED screen in the sky that everyone thinks is real. The heavens. This place we believe is called the Great Attractor. It's a vector of space that has a bunch of dust and debris, and they say it's got about 4 trillion suns and 4,000 different galaxies. And when they say that, I don't know how they determine these things. It's basically you throw a harpoon into the void of potential and you pull back a logic which fits so that you can continue building upon what was pre-established. But in any case, it sounds cool, I like it, so we'll go with it. And it is a place in the sky where all of these different galaxies and solar systems are orbiting, and we're being pulled towards it. To me, it is a symbology which speaks not the atomistic science, because perception is really not the best gauge of truth. It's what you feel, which gives the perception meaning. And that's what this is all about, this full moon. So with the sun at 13 degrees Gemini, one of the most beautiful expressions for the sun to be physically, mentally, spiritually, all that stuff. The sun is naturally being pulled to life through this archetypified language of the stars that we can see through this chart here. Now the sun in Gemini, it's about assessing information, understanding contrasts, information analysis, in order to make wise decisions without getting too deep. So we've got this moon, and it's part of a grand fire trine with Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries, healing the self, the psyche of the self, the individual expression, the authentic expression of you, and Pallas Athena in Leo. And Pallas Athena in Leo, it is that's where I have Pallas Athena. Mine is in the 3rd decan. But it is power with perception. It is a proper application of knowledge, understanding what power is in relation to your perceptions. And so there's a grand fire trine, which means there is a lot of energy in this circuit with the moon. But Pallas Athena is an asteroid. It's not a prominent player in anyone's chart unless you feel into it and it speaks to you. So it is a subtle energy which is informing the moon, along with Chiron, which is the healing of the self. And it's a trine energy, grand fire trine, so it's an easy flow. It means it's a natural flow. Now the sun is opposing the moon, so there's a polarity, there's a sense of value that you feel in your beliefs and what you know to be through your conditioning, what you've learned. The conditioning is actually the cultivation of the self through Taurus, and then the awareness is within Gemini. How you're conditioned means when you look out at a field, maybe you grew up in the country and you grew up with a lot of wildflowers. So if you look at the field, you've never been there, but you see all these wildflowers, you might be able to identify what they are. Or you know the patterns, bees, other insects, butterflies, maybe you know what type of grass it is, or you know the conditions of the soil because you've experienced that. But these are all the conditioning of the mind and the information we acquire and how we perceive things. And the belief arises without the need to dig into it again and recreate the wheel through another process of analysis. So this polarity, what we feel to be our beliefs based off of what we've been conditioned to see and believe through the mind, through assessment, the polarities of dark and light. Now the sun is forming a sextile with both Chiron and Pallas Athena. So the energy of the soul, the expression of your spirit through your form is informed through Pallas Athena archetypes and Chiron, the wounded healer. And it is the refinement of your self-value through the cultivation of your past. And the future calls to you, trying to bring you through expression to your full potential. But your full potential is not a judgment that anyone can make. It's barely a judgment we can make ourselves, because it is a continuation of our unfoldment. And it is through the beliefs that it arises. And it is very hard to choose your beliefs. If you're aware that you're choosing your beliefs, then you're living in self-denial. And so this is the full moon to help you bring that out. Now we have a grand fixed cross as well going on with Mars, Pluto, and the nodes. And we also have Venus involved with this. Even though she's in Cancer, she's at the 28th degree of Cancer. So we have the moon representing Venus and the sun representing Mars in this dynamic. So it's the conditioning of your family, your cultures, the masculine, feminine dynamics as they go through us, and we fill these roles and act certain ways through society, through culture. And the things that we take through that, which get stuck in our mind, help to form our egos. So when you are stuck in the past, when you are stuck in your conditioning, when you believe there's no place to go, there's no growth, you are processing. You are still processing. When you see that there's a place you can go, there's a way you can apply what you've learned, you can grow into something new, then that means you are leaning into the north node, the cultivation. And then all the statics of the past become living dynamics, and they just form more pages in the story of the life. And I've been in both of those dynamics, so I understand what it's like. And I think we all have. Now there is a subtle gift being handed down through spirit here. It's Neptune opposing Ceres. Neptune at 29 minutes of Pisces. Ceres at 26 degrees, 21 minutes of Virgo. And that Ceres is in a out of sign trine with Pluto, but Pluto's retrograde. So it's coming back to bring you back into an understanding of your value through your heritage and your application, possibly in society, in culture, what you can give by giving to yourself. And it's also in trine with Vesta and Taurus. The passion, Vesta is a Virgoan archetype energy, the Vestal Virgin. And it is a purity of your value before it was conditioned. Or rather, through all the conditioning, there's still something, a fire within you that is pure, and you can bring that to expression in these times. You're going to be getting information which will cause that spirit to rise in you. Now we've got the North Node conjunct Jupiter at 4 degrees Taurus, and the nodes are currently on Chiron's nodal axis. South Node in Scorpio at 3 degrees is the North Node of Chiron. So what can you transform from your past that propels you into the value of yourself? How do you expand that knowledge, that understanding? It is through your beliefs. The moon here. When you live in denial, you are processing. You know, the trauma hurts, the conditions hurt. We make mistakes. We invest in things that don't play out, and we feel like we have an obligation to either uphold for another person or for our image, our own self-image. And regardless, when we do that, we're just holding ourselves and everyone else back as well. It's hard to see in real time, but if you feel into your beliefs, if you can feel into the conditioning of what you've gone through and how it applies to you here, now, today, and going forward, you can lean into the moon. Get in touch with the fire within you, the spirit, the sense of adventure, the sense of action, the sense of expansion. And in these times, that's very valuable because the world is going to give us all sorts of information. Principalities on high are going to play their roles so that we can come into the truth of our own form. So be yourself. Try not to fall into the shit show. And if you do end up having to fall into the shit show, remember that you can step out at any time. It's about feeling into it. Know the value of yourself.